Fyodor Dostoevsky is universally acknowledged as a giant in literary history. He was never merely a novelist who told stories, but rather an explorer who dissected the human soul. His writings hold the profoundest insights into human psychology, vividly depicting the entanglement and interplay between the human mind and the social and political structures of modern society. It is for this reason that he is worthy of being called a renowned psychologist, and even more so, a philosophical thinker who saw through the essence of human nature. His works always strike at the core perplexities of humanity, compelling every reader to ask themselves, do we truly know ourselves? Is the longing we talk about endlessly a genuine desire of our hearts, or a hollow delusion that we follow with the tide? We strive with all our might to pursue what we want in the world, but how exactly should we walk this path? What fate awaits us if we plunge headlong into unrealistic fantasies? These reflections and warnings about human nature were ahead of his time, and even today, they still hit the reality precisely. It is just that far too many people still fail to understand this reminder. In 1821, Dostoevsky was born into a well-to-do Orthodox Christian family in Moscow. His father was a prominent doctor, and the whole family lived in the hospital where his father worked, leading a life that should have been stable and smooth. But the heavy blow of fate came too early. In his teens, his mother passed away from tuberculosis. At that time, he was studying away from home, determined to become an engineer. Before he could recover from the grief of losing his mother, his father died suddenly, and the cause of death remained an unsolvable mystery. There have always been speculations among the public that his father, who had a violent temper and mistreated serfs for years, was ultimately killed by his own serfs in revenge. As a young man, he was surrounded by the birth, old age, sickness, and death in the hospital every day. He was taught to have faith in a devout religious family, yet he suffered the successive blows of his parents' early death, especially his father's mysterious death. These experiences took root in his heart like seeds and ultimately shaped the unique style of his writings, imbued with an inescapable tragic tinge, yet hiding the truest essence of human nature. After graduating from the Military Engineering Institute, Dostoevsky became an engineer, but his passion for literature and the humanities in his heart grew stronger day by day. He began to translate books in his spare time, and this passion burned more and more fiercely. In the end, he simply resigned from his engineering job and devoted all his energy to writing. This was his official connection with literature, and also a lifelong commitment he kept. In 1846, his debut work, Poor Folk, was published and was an immediate hit. It not only sold well, but was also highly praised by literary critics of the time, and this work was regarded as Russia's first social novel. Yet this success was like a fleeting flower. In the years that followed, he kept trying new creative directions, but met with repeated setbacks. The works he wrote never recaptured the glory of Poor Folk, and his life gradually fell into financial distress. The hardship of life pushed him forward. In 1847, in his late 20s, Dostoevsky met a group of radical writers and intellectuals who advocated utopian socialism. At that time, he could never have imagined that this association would bring him to the brink of life and death. Soon after, the government began to crack down on such radical groups, and he was arrested as a result. In 1849, a death sentence was handed down, and he was to face execution by firing squad. On December 22nd of the same year, he stood under the muzzle of a gun, with death looming close, and his life began to be measured in minutes. The executioners raised their guns and aimed at him, and at the very moment their fingers were about to pull the trigger, a pardon order finally arrived, and he narrowly escaped death. This seemingly real execution was nothing more than a psychological trick used by the government to deter prisoners. but the fear of facing death head-on was engraved in his bones and blood. After this life and death ordeal, Dostoevsky was exiled to Siberia, where he endured 4 years of hard labor in the bitter cold and snow-covered land. In 1860, he finally returned from Siberia, but the man he once was had long since vanished in that suffering. He picked up his pen to write again, and his words lost the vigor of his youth, gaining a touch of pessimism and sobriety from seeing through reality. His interpretation of human psychology also became increasingly acute. He no longer clung to the idea of building a utopian ideal society, but instead turned his gaze inward to the human heart, exploring the secrets hidden deep in the spirit and psyche. He passed away from a lung disease in 1881. In the last 20 years of his life, he wrote one immortal masterpiece after another. To this day, these works are irreplaceable treasures in literary history. Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, Demons, and the Brothers Karamazov. Each one holds his profoundest reflections on human nature. Throughout all of Dostoevsky's works, human suffering is an inescapable core theme. He always wrote about suffering, and more importantly, about the various attempts humans make to escape suffering and the ultimate results of these attempts. In the era he lived in, the spiritual pillar of religion had long since collapsed. People no longer placed their hopes in faith, but instead sought the so-called ultimate happiness through the ever-developing rationality and technology, building their worldviews and defending their lives in this way. It was against this historical backdrop that Dostoevsky's thoughts took root and sprouted. Published in 1864, Notes from Underground is his most direct response to this era. In this book, he fiercely criticized the obsession of modern Western society, the belief that rationality and technological progress are the only paths to perfect happiness and goodness. The protagonist of the book is an unnamed retired civil servant known as the Underground Man, and the story unfolds through his diaries. The Underground Man is filled with boundless resentment and pain in his heart. He looks down on everyone around him and even scorns those who indulge in self-deceptive fantasies and refuse to wake up. He struggles desperately to make the world see reality clearly, wanting everyone to face the discontent and absurdity in life just like him. But in the end, he is only trapped in his own world, opposing the entire world. In Dostoevsky's view, suffering has never been an accessory to human life, but a fundamental principle engraved in our bones, long since integrated into the blood of every person. There is no way of life, nor any perfect social and material conditions in this world that can make humanity completely free from suffering. Whether it is an individual's growth through strenuous efforts or a group's common progress, all the hard work and achievements only change the form of suffering and can never eliminate suffering at its root. He once wrote a sentence that captures the essence of human nature. Man is always fond of counting his troubles, but never counts his happiness. We always fix our eyes on the unpleasant things and dwell on them repeatedly, turning a blind eye to the beauty around us. This is a common failing of humanity, and also one of the reasons why suffering exists forever. Since there are no social and material structures in this world that can make humanity completely free from pain, all the ideas of building the world into an ideal utopia will ultimately lead to destruction. This is the warning Dostoevsky left to the world through the Underground Man. In that era, the ideological trends of nihilism, utopianism, rationalism, and egoism grew stronger and stronger. People clung to the pursuit of unrealistic perfection under such worldviews. But the core of these ideological trends is nothing more than the belief that life has no inherent, transcendent meaning in itself. The moral norms for human conduct only need to be based on rationality and knowledge, and personal interest is the starting point of all actions. But Dostoevsky saw through the fatal flaw of this worldview long ago. When the spiritual pillar of religious faith disappears, coupled with the irreparable, irrational nature inherent in humanity itself, such ideas will ultimately bring devastating consequences. People always want to resolve suffering and pursue ultimate perfection through various methods. But the solutions to old problems will always give rise to new ones, which in turn require new solutions, and this cycle repeats itself. Moreover, those seemingly grand solutions will ultimately bring only more complex and even more destructive new problems. This is not to say that the efforts made for social progress, technological development, and self-improvement are meaningless, nor that these pursuits are wrong in themselves, but that these efforts often fail to reach the originally set goals at all. If we completely ignore the inherent limitations of humanity in the process of pursuing these goals, this endless obsession will only make the problems more and more serious, turning the original pursuit into a shackle that imprisons ourselves. Dostoevsky wrote a passage in Notes from Underground that strikes at the heart of human nature with every word. Now I ask you, what can be expected of man, this creature born with such odd traits? Bestow upon him all the blessings of the world, immerse him in endless happiness, leaving nothing but bubbles of bliss on the surface. Grant him a life of abundant material comfort, where he has nothing to do but eat, sleep, and reproduce for the rest of his days. Yet even then, out of sheer ingratitude and bitter resentment, he will act in all manner of absurd ways. He will even abandon the ease before his eyes and deliberately pursue the most meaningless vanity and the most unrealistic absurdity, only to inject his fatal, whimsical obsessions into all this seemingly rational goodness. He insists on clinging to those unrealistic fantasies and foolish obsessions, if only to prove to himself, as if this proof were of the utmost importance, that man is ultimately man, not a key on a piano. A piano key only sounds according to a preset melody, but humans are born with a sense of free will, an instinct engraved in our bones. Dostoevsky always believed that human nature is inherently irrational, and what we truly desire is never the so-called perfect happiness, but the feeling of being in control of our own lives. Therefore, even if there really were a perfect world where everyone could obtain happiness effortlessly, humanity would rather destroy this perfection with their own hands, rather fall into madness than live a mechanical, routine life. We always think we are wholeheartedly pursuing happiness, but this is not the case. Every one of us knows this deep down. How many times has happiness been right in front of us, yet we chose to turn a blind eye to it? How many times have we clung to a trivial matter, complained endlessly, and even destroyed the beauty before our eyes with our own hands? Our reason tells us that we want happiness and peace with universal equality, but our true hearts, our actions, and the entire history of humanity all tell a different story. We never know ourselves as well as we think we do, and even if we catch a glimpse of our true selves occasionally, we often lack the courage to accept it calmly. Crime and Punishment, published in 1866, depicts this human predicament of not knowing oneself incisively and vividly. The protagonist of the book is Rodion Raskolnikov, a down-and-out former law student. His mother and sister gave everything to help him escape his predicament and realize his dreams. His sister was even willing to sacrifice her own happiness and marry a wealthy man just to supplement the family income and give him a better life. Yet this heavy love left nothing but anxiety and shame in Raskolnikov's heart. By that time, he had long been swept up in the ideological trends of nihilism, rationalism, and atheism, and his outlook on life had thus been distorted. Influenced by these ideas, he cast off all the constraints of religious and moral norms, and a crazy thought arose in his mind: to kill and rob the vicious and tyrannical old pawnbroker. He knew that the old woman had a large sum of cash hidden away, and he thought that such an evil person was unworthy of possessing such wealth in the first place. He found numerous, seemingly reasonable justifications for his idea. The standard of moral judgment should be to make choices that bring the greatest well-being to society and happiness to the largest number of people through rational thinking. He believed that he was more worthy of the money than the old woman, because he could make the money realize its true value, support his hard-working mother and sister, finish his studies, become a lawyer, and then use his abilities to do more good for the world. More importantly, he was extremely conceited, always thinking that he was an extraordinary person, one with great strength and resolute action. In his perception, outstanding people were naturally entitled to break the rules for the public good, even if it meant committing the so-called crimes. In this way, he cloaked his murder in the guise of rationality and killed the old pawnbroker with his own hands. And the old woman's half-sister, who happened to witness the murder, also became a victim of his knife. But after the murder, Raskolnikov's world completely fell apart. Endless guilt and fear tormented him day and night, and he finally realized that he was not the cruel and fearless man he had imagined himself to be, but just an ordinary person with a tender and loyal heart. The obsession he had built with rationality crumbled in the face of human instinct. In the end, to save himself from complete mental collapse, he chose to turn himself in to the police. Through Raskolnikov's guilt and struggle, Dostoevsky exposed the true face of a wrong idea. It is, in itself, a kind of bigotry to regard rationality and personal interest as the only criteria for judging morality and self-worth. Every step of what Raskolnikov did seemed reasonable in his rational reasoning, but the act itself was outright evil, and it trapped him in endless pain from which he could never escape. Like Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment also fiercely criticizes the ideological trends of nihilism, utilitarianism, rationalism, and egoism. These trends place the individual at the center of everything, holding that the only way to pursue personal growth and social development is to follow personal interest and measure everything by rationality. But human nature has never been black and white, nor can it be completely controlled by rationality. That is the most fatal flaw of these ideological trends. The most touching part of Crime and Punishment is that it fully portrays the complexity of human psychology. We always define ourselves through our own consciousness, asserting what kind of people we are, but this self-perception is often far from our true selves, even contradictory. If we cannot see through ourselves, let alone the people around us, our perception of others is often even more divorced from the truth than our self-perception. Dostoevsky never portrayed Raskolnikov as a purely evil person. He wrote about the character's completely distorted and wrong self-perception, and also enabled readers to understand the character's struggle, even to feel empathy for this cold-blooded murderer. He made us see that the so-called bad people are never entirely evil, and that they carry the shadow of every one of us, confused on the path of life due to inner conflicts and misunderstanding of oneself, and ultimately straying from the right way. This is the truth of human nature. For every one of us, the entanglement between consciousness and the subconscious, and the collision between the self and the external world, have always been a chaotic, confused, and contradictory game. We may spend our entire lives and still fail to truly see through all of this. We always feel that we are worlds apart from those who make us afraid and disgusted. But in fact, there is no essential gap between us and them. Their bodies bear our shadows, and our hearts hide their traits, only in varying degrees, either obvious or hidden. We are never as rational as we imagine ourselves to be, nor do we know ourselves that well. We often chase after things that are not the genuine desire of our hearts, striving with all our might only to feel empty after obtaining them. We also often feel afraid of what we truly want, longing for it, yet daring not to reach out for it. We always think that madness is far away from us, but in fact, a touch of madness hides in everyone's daily life, and this is the truest human nature. Dostoevsky saw through this long ago. He knew that in every era, Christianity and idealist philosophy have painted overly perfect blueprints for humanity, but those unattainable goals will ultimately only disappoint people time and again. Science cannot save humanity, because science cannot solve the problems of the human heart. Technology is not a panacea to escape problems either. It only presents the original problems in a different form, making them more complex. Dostoevsky firmly believed in these views, and in any era he is right, at least to some extent. But his writings are never just filled with darkness and despair. In the ending of Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov was ultimately sentenced to only 8 years in prison for doing good deeds while in jail. The novel does not end his life story, but leaves a cliffhanger, implying that his story is still going on. This is also the hope Dostoevsky hid in his words. Even in the midst of endless suffering, as long as there is still faith in the heart, one can learn to accept one's own imperfection, know how to sympathize with others, and be willing to repent for one's mistakes. Then redemption is always within reach. Most of his works are rich in tragic overtones, with questions about human nature and depictions of suffering in every line. Yet in this darkness, there is always a glimmer of light, the hope of redemption. This hope may be imperfect, and it may take all our strength to reach it, but its existence is enough to let people find the strength to keep going in the face of suffering. The Idiot, published in 1869, even integrated his own life experiences and inner ideals into the writing. The protagonist of the book is Prince Mishkin, and there is a plot in the book that is exactly the same as Dostoevsky's personal experience. Prince Mishkin tells a story of a man who was arrested, sentenced to death by firing squad, and experienced a thrilling mock execution.
Prince Mishkin said that the man had only 5 minutes left to live, at most 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes were both an endless night and an invaluable treasure to him. He began to carefully plan this short time. 2 minutes to bid farewell to his companions, another 2 minutes to reflect on his life for the last time, and the final minute to take a good look at the world. He was 27 years old that year, in the prime of his life and in good health. When bidding farewell to his companions, he suddenly asked an irrelevant question, even feeling a strong curiosity about the answer. After the farewell, the 2 minutes for self-reflection began. He had long known what he wanted to think about and strove with all his might to imagine quickly and clearly. He was still alive and well at this moment, but what would he become in 3 minutes? A person or an object? And where would he be? He wanted to find all the answers in these 2 minutes. There was a church nearby, its gilded dome shining brightly in the dazzling sun. He remembered staring fixedly at that dome and the rays of light pouring down from it. In his eyes, that light was his new destination, and in 3 minutes, he would merge with it. He knew nothing about this impending unknown and felt a deep revulsion for it, a feeling that tormented him to the core. But at that moment, what tormented him the most was a recurring thought. What if I don't have to die? What if my life can start over? That endless time would all be mine. Then I would live every minute as if it were a lifetime, not wasting a single second, counting every minute and second to make every moment meaningful. In the end, this thought made him furious, and he even wished the soldiers would pull the trigger at once and end it all. This description hides Dostoevsky's own state of mind when he faced death head-on, as well as his profoundest understanding of life. Life is often full of tragedies. Pure goodness is ultimately hard to achieve, and suffering is the inherent background of life. But when a person clearly realizes that they are about to lose it all, this fear reaches its peak. This sobriety is too cruel. It lets you see the beauty of all things in the world, yet tells you that you are destined to lose it forever. In the end, a person may even prefer to die at once rather than drown in this painful sobriety. This is the power of Dostoevsky's writings. They always strike at the truest human nature and always let us see our own shadows in other people's stories. Whether we agree with his views or not, his profound insights and immortal works are like a mirror, reflecting the complexity of human nature and reminding us, life is short. Don't always fix your eyes on suffering. Don't always cling to unrealistic perfection. As long as we still have time and life is still full of possibilities, to feel the beauty and depth of life itself with all our hearts, that is enough.